More than 300 meters in elevation change, more than 150 turns, and just under 21 kilometers. That's a single lap at the Nordschleife. Hopefully, this makes it clear why this track is held in such high regard by racing drivers. But this is still part of the overall championship. Hopefully, they've gotten their practice in as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. While we don't have the time to go over every single corner here, we can give you a brief overview of the place, so let's check it out with our GSRC track guide. Welcome to the Nurburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff. There's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as Flugplatz, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nurburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. Well, this is an absolutely legendary circuit and definitely appropriate for this era of race car, Joey, but it still will be a tough one.
Probably the biggest and baddest racetrack in the entire world. Yeah, the Nordschleife. We don't touch the GP circuit. This is all the old school stuff. 12.94 miles, 154 turns, if you're trying to count them all. But oftentimes here at this racetrack, you find yourself racing the track, not necessarily the cars behind you or in front of you. Those are just kind of inducing anxiety around you as you circle around this place at a little bit more than 7 minutes a lap here. And I think it's just constant turns, constant danger between the curbs, the walls out there. Always danger around every single curb here, or I say curve here at the Nürburgring. And who's going to come out the other end with the checkered flag today, Joe? We're about to find out.
Absolutely. So gonna have to keep your eyes peeled for all kinds of action. And unfortunately, there hasn't been much action at the top of the standings. About the biggest change we've seen is that Juan Mi Costa didn't get a perfect score last time. And that's the only fault that you can give him. Otherwise, he's still leading the way easily over Timothy Reed, who's been doing a pretty good job, although he didn't get a second place back at Jerez last week. Kimmo Viekainen, Juho Reina gaining a little bit on him. Gernot Friesche also having a very good day. He's been quite quick lately, so I don't think that sixth place really reflects as well. But we don't have Costa here, so he's not going to get a score today. This is a chance to make some inroads, even though he will have a drop week later. Let's take a look at the F2 standings, though, in the meantime.
Right now, F2 is led by Andrew Thomas with 101 points. Actually, a pretty commanding lead over Miguel Moreland, but check this out. Second all the way down to Shady Ahmad. That includes Barry West, Keith Herner, and Shady. They're only separated by 6 points. Then you go down a little bit further, Taro Dahlberg, Silbernagel, and also Pablo Suarez, only separated by 6 points themselves. So here in the F2 driver standings, things are definitely very tight.
Indeed. Now, as for the race itself, this is going to be a little different than what you're used to. Yes, it says 5 laps, but this isn't exactly going to be the sort of sprint that you anticipate. As you heard, each of those laps do take a while to get around here. Open setup, so hopefully you've got the car to where it feels comfortable. You do want it to be fast, but I think survival is going to be a bit more key. No spare car if you run into the wall, and that's going to be easy to do at a track like this. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents and disqualification at 25. That's practically a non-issue at this circuit. I think you can just throw those out the window and not have to be concerned with that. Now, they've already qualified, so right now the drivers are actually in the warm-up. They have a separate qualifying session simply because it takes too long to be able to do a normal qualifying session around here, Joey.
Yeah, because the laps are so long, iRacing usually has about a 7 or an 8 minute qualifying session. Well, guess what? You can't even get your lap done in that amount of time from when you leave the pit. So you got to have a separate session in order to basically qualify these cars for our race.
So we wait for them to grid up, and we don't even get a sense of who's going to be quick today because they haven't been able to complete a lap here in the warm-up either. They have gotten some time to try and get used to it and see how they feel about the car, which is going to be important because it's quite warm out here, and it can get warm at the Nurburgring. I can attest, having now been there in person. And let's see how they grid up, as it looks like they are ready to go. And on the pole is going to be Pauli Partsinen. Can he pick up the first person to win other than Costa this season? Phil Reed will start second, as the Controller King's going to try and snatch that from him. Juho Reina will be third, and Kimmo Viekainen will be P4. Gernot Friesche starts fifth today, and JDS will be next to him in sixth. Timothy Reed, poor qualifying for him, only seventh today, as Arturas Kundalis will be P8, and Nathan Finnegan ninth. Gary Ho rounds out your top 10.
Here in 11th, we have John Stevens. In 12th, we have Petter Smetana. Then Bjorn Ackerman here in 13th. Keith Herner, 14th. Steve Sarles in the top 15. Arturo Amro in 16th. Robert Simpkins and Steve Sopka on row 9. And Barry West and Pablo Suarez round out your top 20.
Tristan Bell will be 21st, Byron Long 22nd, Shady Ahmad 23rd, and Cam Porter rounds out your 24-car field. Unfortunately, they go around T13, so going to be a tough start as the engines are already revving. The lights are up, and the green flag is out. It's a bit of a poor start there from third place, Juho Reina, and he's going to try and hold off Kimmo Viekainen as they come down into Sabine Schmitz. But it looks like we've got a clean first corner as they all get through, but what about the rest?
Yeah, looks like we're zippered in single file throughout the entire field. I see maybe a little bit of side-by-side up there for 17th and 18th place, but for the most part, well-mannered through the first few corners of the lap.
I think they know what the deal is here. It's just try to get in line and get this race going. You'll get opportunities later, especially as you'll see here, because it should be, I believe, flat out through fluke plots all the way down into the Swedish Cross. And there you can see they don't get any air with all the downforce on these machines coming up over there. And it's into Cottonborn where it truly is flat out. And they are already up to about 175 miles an hour here.
I'm seeing 180 plus now as they peak up and over the crest, as they go down the hill, get on the brakes hard for the first time on the entire lap. You got to make sure to get the car slowed down enough, the nose turned in, and then Joe, this dive steep downhill.
Absolutely, into compression and foxhole. Compression named for very obvious reasons, as you see them come through there and then up over the crest into Adenauer Forest. Pauli Partsinen is still leading. Now, he had some blinking on the grid that we noticed, but we haven't seen it since then. Hopefully that's cleared up. Phil Reed is keeping him honest. He's still within about half a second.
Love it. I don't think we've had an incident yet. Knock on wood over here. Whoa, Partsinen flirts with the grass edge here in the lead. You can tell he's definitely pushing it.
He knows he needs to get that car out of the slipstream. The long straights here are going to offer the best chances to try and make passes. You can see these corners, usually not really great places to try and sneak by. It's so narrow as we watch Arturas Koundalis, the handicap driver, racing with his hand control rig as he comes down. Look at that little lockup in front of him coming down into Defense Valley, and that is Jack David Spickett, who is very close in front of him.
Yeah, this is quite a battle here. JDS right in front, Timothy Reed, and also Gernot Frisha. You see, that's kind of the three cars right in front of Arturas, and now we go up the hill. Heavy traction on those back tires to stand on that accelerator.
And we've been watching Arturas giving us this feed yesterday with the Camel Series. It's one thing to do that in that car, in the GTO, but to try this in the Lotus 79 and at the ring, I can't imagine how hard it must be to try and drive with the throttle and brake controls on your fingers.
It's a lot going on. I couldn't be able to do it. I think what some of these drivers can do with hand controls, it's extremely impressive, and then you put it in the virtual world, Joe, where you really have no, I guess, sense of feeling of what the car is doing. It's even more impressive.
Absolutely, and he's holding off Finnegan as we took a quick glance behind. He's dropped off of JDS a little bit, but already the top of the hill coming up to the infamous carousel. Partanen still ahead of Reed with Viekainen kind of holding on. Oh, look at that big run from Reed through the carousel. He is strong through there.
I think that's an area of the track that you can kind of roll the dice, and you can either maybe roll it a little bit slow through there, play it conservative to make sure you don't jump out of the carousel, or you can do what Phil Reed did and just say, you know what, I'm going for it. If it's going to stick, I'm going to make up some time.
Very famous and iconic corner, that one, because of that steep and single file banking that it has. And they're doing a lot with the curbs here, which is impressing me because these cars like to stay glued to the ground, not lift up the bottom and lose that suction. But it seems in places we're seeing Partanen just glance over them.
And Joe, we're coming up to the area of the track that we get through the next section, and all of a sudden it changes from these turns to this big, long straightaway. What I'm noticing out of Phil Reed, he's very aggressive throughout this lap. Is he maybe running a little bit more wing, which is giving him that confidence and that grip?
Your mind is in the same place mine is right here. I was thinking the same thing. And right now as he comes up and into the Beloff S's, he is indeed trying to use what he can. Even if he gets the slipstream, though, will he be able to outrun him on the Dottinger Hoa like you were talking about? He's going to try and stay as near as he can because he's basically got just about 2 more braking zones, and then it's all on the throttle.
Yeah, through this miniature carousel. Oh, he actually slips up and slips wide on exit a little bit there. It's going to cost him maybe 1 or 2 car lengths, but it's all about putting the power down right here through the final sweeping right-hander.
Partanen wants to be as far away as he can. Oh, but he's a little slow off of the Gallows Hill, unfortunately. This gives a chance to Reed, and he's starting to gain, but he's not gaining quickly. I think you're right. Look at Partanen. He's holding station, even though Reed is in the draft.
And the thing is, once Phil Reed goes out and gets into clean air, he's basically going to hit a wall of air. I doubt he's going to have the momentum to do it, but here he goes. He's going to try, and yep, sure enough, he stalls out.
Oh, Reed's going to have to get tricky then, because Partanen's going to be able to blast past him on the straight, even if we see Phil get by. This is going to be a fascinating race between them. And don't forget, Kimmo Viekainen pulled them back in a little bit back there. He's still in touch in third.
Oh, he pulled in a ton. He's only a half second back. That long straightaway just helped out Viekainen a ton. All of a sudden, we got 3 cars battling, and I would say if I'm Phil Reed, do exactly what you did the first lap. Go up there and fill the mirrors as much as you can. Give him as much anxiety as he can possibly take.
Try and distract him maybe. Viekainen, though, might be doing a bit of the same there behind him, unfortunately, as we watch from over his shoulder. Let's see if he gains here. Again, this is another of those long straights coming out of High Oaks and up towards Flugplatz.
The downforce coming into full effect here. Almost like a reverse fighter jet. Suck it down to the ground up over that crest.
He comes through Flugplatz and now into Cottonborn. You go quite faster here, and this is a place that's actually been flattened in real life a little bit. There's a big crest right here. The cars can leap off there depending on the downforce. These don't, but thankfully they are able to stay flat out all the way until they come down into Ehrenberg.
Oh, Joe, I'm watching the data over here, and you are right. When they go over those little crests, you actually see wheel spin at 170 miles an hour. So they are going flat out, and yes, they are feeling it when they jump over those bumps.
Impressively, I haven't seen any major incidents, knock on wood. Ambrose started from pit lane, but other than that, everybody still seems to be on course and flying. And in fact, 24 cars are between about 28 seconds. So this top split has really not separated a whole lot.
No, and I know we've been watching these top three, but what I've kind of got in the back of my right eye, I guess, is Gernot Frische through Arturas Kundelis. These 4 cars, I mean, they're only separated by about a quarter of a second right now.
Good point. Kundelis at the back of them right now, chasing on Jack David Spickett. Timothy Reed kind of stuck behind Gernot Frische. We're used to Gernot maybe being a little sluggish to get going, but when he does, it is good. And we've got our first victim. Steve Sarles, unfortunately, has had to take a tow, but I think it was a lone car incident.
Looking at that bright green car, the caboose in this train, that's Kundelis. Kind of the 4th car there, but he's the one applying the most pressure to Jack David Spickett right now. And I was seeing before in the chat, before the race started, Jack David Spickett and the other competitors, they were noticing no Costa today. So somebody is going to go up there and grab that win. Who's it going to be? Exactly.
Kundelis staying tied right to the back here as they come up the hill. But so is Phil Reed. He's down to within 1/10 of a second. Is this his opportunity? Because he's going to have a good slipstream. And here we can see just how close he is. Pauli Partanen has his mirrors absolutely full of the Controller King. But this is Bravery Corner. This is going to be tough to ride in that dirty air, and look at him drop back.
And knowing Partanen, I think he's kind of smiling right now. You can have 2 viewpoints. You can either be sweating about the car coming up behind you, or in Pauli's case, probably confident in your own car, knowing, hey, I got the top speed. You can look all you want, but you're not going by me. Oh, Phil Reed slips wide in the carousel. This opens the door for Kimmo.
Wow, what a mistake from him. He was pushing it last time we saw. They're going to be side by side. Viekainen is able to push his way through and was not taking no for an answer, almost putting Reed onto the grass.
Well, that was kind of the mistake that Phil Reed was trying to apply to Pauli, but it was ultimately just a little bit of a slip-up going into the carousel.
All right, let's see what the 3 does here. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to it than he just went in too hot, it looks like.
Yeah, and I know that you can use that, the apron on the left kind of as like a rally car hook, and he might have just got a little bit too aggressive with it and it actually pushed him up and out.
Oh, wow. Steve Sarles back out on track? Oh, okay, excuse me. This is the replay. This is into Metzgefeld. I did get a chance to go back and look. Overshot the corner, and there's just not a lot of room to run off to the outside.
No, there isn't. No matter where you are on this racetrack, Joe, you know from personal experience how close those guardrails really are.
It feels so much more confining in real life, I can tell you. We got to take a ring taxi around here, and it feels very cramped, especially with all the trees so close to the track as well. But Phil Reed is not enjoying the view right now, because I've seen him poke and prod on Viekainen already. He is unhappy that he has lost that position, and he wants it back right away.
I actually saw him run 2 wheels off into the grass just a few corners ago, so Phil Reed definitely driving at 11/10 right now. Is it going to pay off? What kind of downforce levels is Viekainen running? And also, shout out to Juho Reina, who entered that battle back in 4th place.
Absolutely, but now we're watching Bjorn Ackerman here in 13th. That's John Stevens just in front of him, along with Gary Ho. Let's see if this is enough for him to start to pull up. Love that Gary Ho actually has a Lotus 49 livery on that car, because we see him over in the Grand Prix Legends frequently. Here we go. Phil Reed gets a decent run, but just like we saw in the first lap, He can't quite see. Oh, no! They have ghost contact. They're going to come together, and Reed slides across, is narrowly missed by Juho Reina. He's not got many places to go. Don't get stuck on the curb. And he's able to get it turned around barely.
Just such a shame for both Phil and Kimmo out there. I mean, that was, you called it ghost contact, because these cars, I think, were at least 3 feet away from each other. Just a shame to see it.
Didn't we see a mistake from Phil as well back at Jerez? He's been, yeah, and although I wouldn't call this one a mistake as much, they were very far apart, so just didn't anticipate the differences between them there.
No, and I was waiting for the contact to happen, and they were giving each other enough room, and it's just a bummer to see it. Here's Reina's view, and Juho just barely sneaks through the smoke there. That was a very much a Days of Thunder moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, he couldn't see what was going on, and unfortunately, we've had another mistake from Phil Reed. Wonder if he got some sort of damage, because he had a spin coming up into High Oaks, and this time he hit the wall. Here it is.
Yeah, he gets high-centered on the exit curb here, Joe. I think that's what happens.
Maybe pushing a little too hard, trying to make up time. Yeah, and off he goes into the wall. This time, thankfully, not back onto the track, but he becomes our third victim, actually. Shady Ahmad has come into pit lane and has since retired. No idea what happened to him. We'll see if we can investigate that maybe a little bit later. In the meantime, this promotes a few people up. Gernot Frisha is now into fourth. Juho Reina has run away from them, and Timothy Reed, Jack David Spickett, and Arturas Kundalis might want to try and see if they can maybe push forward and attack for a potential podium.
Oh, it's Timothy Reed who's really been applying the pressure, but right now JDS has got the run on Timothy Reed. This area of the racetrack, not too many possibilities to go side by side. It's more single file as you come up over the crest and start to go down the hill. This is an area that, Joe, I always screw up here in the simulator. The curbs seem so tall and they bite you here.
Absolutely, yeah. Spiegel curve there, and then down through miss, hit, miss. Another one that I can tell you, and having gone through it in person, was kind of frightening, even as a passenger. And now through Defense Valley, and as they blast their way towards the bottom, the lowest part of the track here, it's going to be a gigantic climb all the way up to the top. Big slide, though, for Timothy Reed. It looks like he's struggling a bit.
I think I saw all 3 of those cars really wag the tail coming out, and you got to count on that compression to lay on the accelerator, but how much do you take advantage of that extra grip before it starts to give way?
I said in the intro, 300 meters of elevation change for the non-metric folks. That's literally over 1,000 feet up and down over the course of a lap. This truly is a ride through the mountains.
It's spectacular. It really is. I wish to go there at some point. You know, I've been to Germany, I've been to Austria, have not been to the Nurburgring. And Joe, I know that your trip was pretty memorable. I'm sure that you could probably talk all day about it.
Oh, yes. I wish I could insert more into this about it, but right now we got to focus on these drivers. Pauli Partanen, the focus of him's been pretty good. He withstood the pressure when he needed to, and since then, Viekainen's not been able to catch up to him, at least yet. It's remained at about 3 seconds.
I wonder if Viekainen has any damage. It doesn't appear so. He seems to be doing plenty on pace here, but Juho Reina is officially on the back of him, so he has gone from one competitor to another in his mirrors.
So we've got an all-finish podium right now as it sits. Gernot Frisha maybe will try and change that if he can catch up to them, but he's got to make up about 2 seconds to do so. As we watch from Juho, the other thing I did get to do is go and spectated a few spots, this being one of them, coming down into YouTube Corner. It is extremely popular. I was there on a Thursday, and there were people, a ton of people, just parked up and just kind of casually observing.
An interesting section, Joe, because you're coming down the hill, you have a lot of confidence in sweeping corners, and then that right-hander definitely catches you by surprise as you come up the hill. I think a lot of people overestimate the speed that they're going.
Indeed, very much so. And there you see some of the speed as they fly over Flansgarden, and the other spots where cars can often get a little bit of air. And as JDS continues to hound on Timothy Reed, he's getting a little uncomfortably close now. If he can stay this close, I wonder if there's something in store down the Dottie Hoa.
Well, this is going to be the first time that I'm going to watch this pack of cars down the straightaway, and you see them all squirming for that traction. And even then, Gernot Frisch is doing a great job to stay within touch of both Reina and Villakainen. Look, they are not very far up the road.
Indeed. And this is only lap 3. It's just under 6 minutes a lap for the fastest drivers. In fact, only one driver has broken 6 minutes, Partonen naturally. Everybody else still trying to do better than that. Arturas Kundelis now getting a nice little toe on Jack David Spickett. He's the closest amongst these 4 to one another. Can he manage to overtake him, or is he also suffering from just a little too much wing?
So I'm watching all of the top speeds down the straightaway here. Kundelis 183 miles an hour in the draft, but they seem to stall out at about 181 miles an hour. And there you see Arturas just not able to make up the ground once he's pulled out into the clean air. And that's also in case because JDS is in the draft as well.
Absolutely. So Partonen with another fastest lap. He's cut it down to 5:58 this time. Still, nope, it looks like we got a couple that have broken 6 minutes. Juho Reina did. Timothy Reed, Jack David Spickett, and Arturas Kundelis have all gotten underneath that marker. But we're still watching with Arturas as they start to bunch up a little bit. JDS now gaining on Timothy Reed as well.
I wonder if this is more Kimmo Villakainen starting to slow down because Gernot Frisch has closed it up to within 1 second behind Juho Reina. So right now, 2nd through 7th, all on the racetrack together.
The late bloomer, Gernot Frisch, maybe he's got a little bit better here towards the end of this race as well. We can't forget that. And he's going to start to feel maybe some of these effects of the slipstream. About a second back should get you on the longer straights. Just a tiny little boost as they come up and over the crest and into the Swedish Cross. Now we've got a pass attempt, and it's going to be Kundelis who's going to try it the long way around, which is going to be the inside of Ehrenberg, and he gets the pass done.
That is a power move from Arturas Kundelis around the outside of Jack David Spickett. I would be fist pumping my hand in the air after that one.
Well, he can't really take his hands off the controls much here. He's got to stick with it and see if he can do anything on Timothy Reed now.
Focus forward, Timothy Reed, because that car, that red car right in front of him, that is a top 5 position. And now all he's got to worry about is maybe JDS in the mirror, but hey, you're just next up in line.
We often talk about real-world car makers and race teams getting involved. Kundelis' wheel, by the way, is a McLaren wheel that he's actually using, McLaren brand wheel. So very interesting stuff to see the way that it has seeped in so many different ways here into the sim racing world.
And he's already applying the pressure to Timothy Reed, as this is Reina on Villakainen, but I think Arturas, he's in the zone right now. He is on attack mode.
Absolutely. He's going to see if he can do anything because he knows he needs to keep up this momentum that he's got now. And Timothy Reed surely knows that he's got a different driver behind him. So someone fast is starting to encroach on his territory. Can he turn up the wick and maybe catch back up to Gernot Frisch?
Oh, had a big wiggle there coming up out of the hill. He just barely clipped the apex curve, but here we go. Timothy Reed does not have the help of the slipstream in front of him. 1.8 seconds up the road to Gernot. So can Arturas do anything about it as we start to climb all the way up this mountain?
This is up through Kesselchen here. Car is going to stay flat out probably until they reach Bravery Corner. I don't know if they have to lift through here. We'll see if we do have Michael Detert kind of in the background. He knows a lot more about how these cars can handle and some of the faster parts. But I have bad news for fans of Torsten Bell. He has had an incident at the back of the field.
I think Kundelis is one of these cars running a little bit of a higher downforce setup, Joe. He's not really making inroads on Timothy Reed. Oh, but there's a mistake from Reed. A little bit of a lockup. That draws Arturas back in where he needs to.
Exactly, and Kundelis is going to know this. He's going to be watching for more mistakes like that. Bale, unfortunately, has had to bail and is now into pit lane as his incident has given him too much damage. We now reach the absolute highest point through Hoa Oct here on the lap. And up at the front of the field, while it might not be for the lead, Ronnie is still eager to try and overtake his fellow Finn.
And Gernot has officially entered the picture. He has ditched out on Timothy Reed and caught up to this battle for what is second place. Can Gernot go stand on the podium today?
I wouldn't put it past him. He's going to try and see if he can make up some inroads on the championship here, I'm sure. As he chases, we hop on board looking from the helmet cam here. While these cockpits are still pretty open, they are low slung, and you can see how close to the circuit you sit here in these cars.
Sometimes it's even difficult to spot where you're trying to turn in or where even the apex is that's coming up at you at the Nurburgring here. You got the guardrails, you got the tall curbs, and then just like you mentioned, Joe, you're sitting so low, you're pretty much scraping the pavement with your butt.
Absolutely, and as they come now through the Beloff S's, Viekainen gets a little bit away from Ronnie. I think maybe he's trying to get himself out of reach so that he isn't under threat coming down the Dottinger Hoa. The real telltale is going to be how he does out of Gallows Hill. This is that next long right-hander.
What are the downforce levels like? From what I've been seeing throughout the entire lap, Joe, I haven't been seeing these three differ too much. So I think they're all on very similar setups, very similar downforce levels.
It does look like it. He got himself well far ahead, and while Juho is gaining, it was nearly 9/10 by the time they exited that final corner. Well, almost final corner. It isn't the start-finish like they have at the Tourist Spartan here. It's just after T13 of the old pits, as Jack David Spickett is gaining hand over fist on Arturas Kundelis, wanting to take that one right back. Kundelis going to try and fight hard, keeps his foot in it, not willing to give way, as now they have to finally lift for Tiergarten. It looks like he'll have to try maybe on the last lap because it's going to be white flag here.
I think that was a smart move from JDS. And yeah, like you said, Partanen already on the final lap as all of them go by start finish for one more time around the Nürburgring.
It's kind of impressive that we still have 20 of the 24 starters. This is a real testament to this top split. Once they kind of got out of the danger of being so close to one another on those first couple laps, everybody's been minding their P's and Q's here. Juho will get another opportunity coming up into High Oaks, but so will Gernot Frische. He's a lot closer this time, only 5/10 back.
Yeah, up and over these fast crests. And yeah, this is one of the awesome parts of the racetrack, in my opinion, Joe. It's pretty much flat out top gear, turn the car in and hang on.
Amazing stuff from them. Oh boy, it looks like Juho's got a very good run. We saw an outside pass through the Swedish cross before. Will we get another one here? What's Kimo gonna do? They're not gonna go side by side, but Juho is there and he's gonna stick his nose in, but he can't get the overlap.
That's one potential passing opportunity, and you got to be careful also not to open the door too much because Mr. Frische is right here ready to walk through.
He's got that number one on his car still. He may not have won as many races lately. In fact, I think it's been up to 3 years or so now at this stage for Gernot. And he still has the most iRating of anybody out in this Lotus 79 field, at least, or Costa is not here.
Yes, and Costa's really been dominating. But hey, today is not about Juan Mi. It's about Pauli Partanen out front and these awesome battles. And I know that we've been focused on this one. Joe, I'm so impressed with Arturas because he is hanging the tail out on this thing. I've been watching JDS come up and give him some pressure, but now is when that higher downforce setup comes into Kundelis's hands.
Absolutely. And we've been getting a little bit of feedback on what's happening with these setups, that might be the iRacing setup that Arturas is running. That's the higher downforce set. iRacing provides all the series with setups to help drivers get on their way, but this community shares a lot of them. And apparently Pauli Partonen likes it really trimmed out, which we've seen today. And then also Timo, one of our other Finns, has provided one that's somewhere kind of in the middle.
And it's all up to the driver. How comfortable are you with the car kind of on that knife edge? If you're comfortable with the car hanging out like that, then yeah, go with the low downforce because it provides you the top speed. If you want the confidence in the corners and on the brakes, you want the higher downforce setup, which gives you the more grip that you want.
Watching Soka, not only because he is chasing on Keith Herner here, but he's also our biggest mover, up 4 positions. That tells you just how tough it. No, I take that back, actually. Cam Porter is our biggest mover. He's up 5 right now. Oh no, Jack David Spickett and Arturas Kunelis just came together and Bravery Corner, and both had major hits. It looks like Kunelis is going to try and limp it along. It is the last lap, but JDS is not able to.
I'd been watching this, and JDS had a lower downforce setup, and he'd been trying to get by Kunelis, and just, you see, this racetrack is so narrow.
Yeah, I don't blame him for trying the side-by-side, but again, we got word from Michael, there's apparently just a little bit of a lift in the lower downforce setting, so it's not quite flat out. And now it looks like we may have lost John Stevens as well, who's had an accident. Oh no, he's high-centered it up at Stylstrucke. Oh man, that is one of the worst things that can happen at a track like this in the 79. Just super tall curbs like you were talking about, Joey.
And it's kind of a helpless feeling when you high center the car because you realize you've already made a mistake, and then it's just adding insult to punishment. They're saying, nope, you're stuck there. You can't go anywhere.
It doesn't matter if the car's good. You just can't take it anywhere. So he'll have to finish in the pits for this one, unfortunately. Well, I spoke too soon. We had lost only 4 cars, but we've lost 3 more in the process of just this one lap. But this battle for second still remains in the hands of Viekainen. Can he hold off Reina on that last run up the Darinhoa?
I'm not surprised that we lost a few cars here on the last lap. You gotta make an opportunity happen, and sometimes it comes down to the last lap, but the Nurburgring is showing why. It's probably claimed more cars than any other racetrack in the world.
Indeed, and claimed a lot of lives too, sadly, unfortunately. Thankfully not an issue here at this track, and Partonen is on the Darinhoa 7 seconds ahead of his rivals. Practically home free from here. All he has to do is cruise through the last few chicanes.
Yeah, just put it on cruise control. Make sure you don't overshoot the brake marker at all. Nail the downshifts, and Partonen will collect that checkered flag.
Indeed. So Reina looks a little far back from Viekainen. Not sure if he's going to be able to do anything here on this one. And Viekainen is trying to weave to break that. But Partonen up into Tiergarten. Hohenrhein. Now, as he slows the car down, these added in to try and make it a little bit safer at the end of such a long straight. And around T13, victory for Partonen, only our 2nd winner this season.
Looks like Viekainen is going to hold off the rest of the field for 2nd place. Juho Reina, complete your podium. Gernot Friese just on the gearbox in 4th.
Just shy of a podium, so an all-Finn podium here today. Timothy Reed in 5th, and Finnegan gets promoted up into 6th with that late wreck, and Peter Smetana in 11th. Didn't even really talk about that driver. Or in 7th, rather, in the number 11 car. So great run. Simpkins, in the meantime, has got himself a good bit of speed over Herner, and now he's got the nose ahead. Herner's going to have to be brave on the brakes, and unfortunately he can't, as he has to back out of it.
Simpkins politely put his car right in the middle of the racetrack, and Keith Herner said, yep, you got me. I yield this one.
Barry West with a nice gain of 5, getting him up into 14th. Oh, he's gonna try and make it 6th, but that came off wrong and spins Amro around. Oh, and they're gonna come together awkwardly and give the position to Pablo Suarez right at the end. Did they know West managed to cross the line?
A little sloppy at the end here for Barry West. Let's see it from Pablo Suarez's view. He was hoping to snag these positions.
Going to be some apologies and discussions after that one. So Suarez didn't quite go past West in time, as the finish line is a little early around that corner. Fascinating stuff. I don't think I've ever seen a finish quite like that here at the ring. But that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back here to the Nordschleife, and after we saw many different drivers try to beat Costa, though no one did today, we have our first different winner in Pauli Partanen. Kimmo Viekainen came home in second, about 8 seconds behind. Juho Reina made him work hard for it and finished third, making it an all-finish podium here today. Gernot Friesche was P4 as Timothy Reed finished fifth, and Nathan Finnegan sixth. Peter Smetana had a bit of a quiet run and was well behind, 14 seconds behind Finnegan, but still did a good job gaining 5 today. Gary Ho was in P8, and then Bjorn Ackerman, one of our cameras today, finished ninth ahead of Steve Sobka, who gained 8 spots there into 10th.
And then we have Robert Simpkins here in 11th place, who made that pass on the last lap over Keith Herner, finishing 12th. Arturo Amro in 13th. Barry West 14th after we caught that action. Pablo Suarez finishing inside the top 15. Cam Porter also up 8 positions to finish 16th. Byron Long, our last car on the lead lap, in 17th, and then we have DNFs from here on out. Unfortunately, Jack David Spickett and Arturas Kundelis caught up in that wreck that we covered. John Stevens finishing 20th.
Yeah, that is a real shame that we saw so many fall victim to the red mist at the end, but it does look like we have our winner ready to talk to us, Pauli Partanen, who we understand has decided to maybe go with a little less wing than many of his competitors. Pauli, was that the case? Did you have it really trimmed out, and were you glad you did that when it came to those long straights?
Yeah, I had very low wing, and it was on purpose. I was planning to be slow on the slow corners and fast on the fast straights, so it worked very beautifully. And I was actually sure that Phil is not able to even overtake me, even if he's at the rear of me, and it seems like that.
Yeah, we noticed that right away, that it seemed like he struggled even when he did get the run on you. How did that make the car handle, though? Was it a little scary?
Yeah, very scary. Actually, I haven't raced Lotus for many months, and I actually yesterday I bought the sub for iRacing, so it's been a bit of learning curve, and this is my old setup, so it was very good to drive back then, but it was hard to manage it. But thankfully I was able to do it. Some small mistakes, but nothing serious. And as Kimmo and Phil got together, I didn't really have any pressure, so I was able to just cruise and not really push at the end.
Our first sight of you this season, from what I can tell, on the broadcast race. So will you be coming back for any more, and see if you can try and take the fight to Juan Mi when he also comes back?
No, I don't think so. I'll do some races, but nothing really much. Juami will win this season for sure. Sadly, I was hoping Juami will be here too, but he was not. But most likely I will be here for some other race, and then we can race with Juami and see who's the better one.
Oh, we can't wait to see that pair up. Congratulations on the win. That was an impressive race.
Thank you.
Pauli Partanen, your winner, was followed home by Kimmo Viekainen, who Joey had all kinds of praise for as we were on break.
Yeah, Guillermo, fantastic finish here in second place today.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was a pretty exciting race.
Well, I feel like you had two parts to the race. The first half of the race, you were really applying the pressure, and you got by Phil Reed. Talk to me about his mistake, and then you squeaking by him.
Yeah, it's easy to drop off from the carousel, and I think Phil have done that before this week, and I kind of expected it, but then I just saw my opportunity and I tried to use it best way I could, and it's paid off this time.
Then talk to me a little bit about the second half of the race. Thankfully, you didn't have any damage from what I saw from that ghost contact between you and Phil, but then it seemed like you just constantly had to hold off Juho as well as Gernot the last few laps. Were you sweating at all?
A lot. I think iRacing told me that I have some front wing damage, but I'm not sure about it. Maybe it's just something between my ears when you heard that, and then you think everything is not like they should be, and I took it pretty carefully and just tried to manage to get to the finish line.
Well, Guillermo, I thought you put together a fantastic race today. Congratulations one more time on the second place.
Cheers, guys.
That was Kimmo Viilakainen finishing second here at the Nordschleife.
And while 16th place might not sound as impressive as P2, Cam Porter was tied for most positions gained, 8 from the start. Cam, notice that you started this one from the back of the field. Were you mostly just survival mode to pick up those spots?
Absolutely. I am very happy to have survived attrition here today and picked up many spots. But like you said, it was kind of quiet race for me today.
I can only imagine. What did you do to prepare for this one? There's really nothing else like the Nurburgring when it comes to trying to get ready for races and race at this track. Do you have something that do you practice specific sections, or do you just do the whole thing and try to pound out the laps?
Oh, the second one. As I mentioned to you guys before, I don't do a lot of practice. I do have a lot of laps under my belt at Nurburgring. I've been racing iRacing for, 3 years now. So I've done a lot of laps. I'm familiar with the track. I'm certainly not the fastest in this car, and I was slightly irked that I was the slowest car in this split for qualifying, because I set a time earlier in the week, and then just before the race today, I set a better time, and I wondered, had I not done the qualifying today, would I have been in second split? But it doesn't matter. Had a good result today, and that I'm happy with.
Absolutely. And I'd say you proved your mettle amongst the big boys here today, being stuck in that position. But we're going to switch gears and go to Brands Hatch. That's another one where it's going to be hard to pass, but you're going to be doing a lot more laps. Do you feel like you can back up this performance there?
I'm not sure. Brands Hatch is not one of my better tracks. I never met a road course I didn't like, though. So bring it on.
I always know you're going to give us that line, but congratulations on a 16th place finish here amongst the fastest drivers. I think you did well, sir.
Thanks, Joey. See ya. Or Joe, sorry.
It works for either of us. That's Cam Porter, who finished 16th in the number 15. So he's pretty close to his I rating, actually, on that one. That's going to wrap us up with a big thank you, of course, to the Lotus 79 community. And we also have to thank the team today, Joey, Ryan, Doug, and a special one for Michael the Turk in the background, who's been kind of helping, giving us some extra key points back there. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Like we said, the next race will be at Brands Hatch, Sunday, July 16th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Also, be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Wow.